defined contribution plans. You see the big difference here?
Give an example.
Okay.
I'm going to walk you through it step by step.
With a defined benefit plan, you can look in your employee handbook and see what your retirement benefits are going to be, because you can apply the formula yourself, right? There are even some plans that make it, here it's 2%, it could be 2.5%, even 3%, right? It could be like, I'm retired. But, you know, there are fewer than the basic 2%. So, defined benefit plans, though, the key is the investment risk is on the employer, right? The employer puts money away every year for each, or supposed to, for each employee, and hopes that it's going to grow in value. So at the time you retire, the amount of money they have, right, is the present value of your future benefit. And when they call up the insurance company and they say, I need an annuity for John Doe, and his benefit's going to be $3,000 a month, or $2,500 a month, and the insurance company says, oh, the premium's going to be X amount of dollars, and that's how much money they have saved for John Doe. That's like the ideal for them. But as I'm telling you, they usually are underfunded, right? All these plans are underfunded. You wouldn't believe how underfunded the state plans are. It's in the billions, right? It's in the billions underfunded. So the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania plans are just, oh, they're a disgrace. But anyway, that's the thing about the defined benefit plan. And I added this during the break. The employer bears the investment risk. Okay?
So
yes, Russ.
the employer knows how much you put away every year, right? Based on
Yeah. Because the actuary will tell the employer how much the employer should be putting away for each employee on the list.
You don't know how much they're being paid like this in 10 years, right? But then how do you know, like?
Well, because each year you're supposed to be putting the money away. So if they get a raise next year, then next year the actuary is going to tell you to put away a little more. Yeah, because the actuary is coming in every year looking at this plan and seeing if it's funded properly. So, but anyway, this is why they don't like them, because the investment risk is on them, and they don't care for them. They're like high-fiving each other over the defined contribution plan, because the defined contribution plan, which would include 401k plans, the employer doesn't promise a benefit. The employer only promises to make a certain contribution to your account, right? And in the case of a 401k plan, if you don't join, right, how much is the employer matching? Zero. That's right, zero. You got to join before the employer is matching something. Now, how many of you are in 401k or 403b plans? Good. And what's your employer match?
50% up to 4% basic. I have to put in 8% to get the 4%.
Okay, good, to get the full 4% contribution from them. So under Teresa's plan, if she puts in 8% of her pay, her employer puts in another 4%, so 12% goes in, right? I'm going to tell you, if you get in young and you put in at least 10%, you'll be wealthy by the time you retire. Teresa, she'll be walking out of there, but a big cigar in her mouth.
I think it's like a 5-year vesting schedule, though, or 7-year, I don't know, for the employee match.
Don't worry, you're going to be rolling in dough. How about you, John? What's your match?
To be honest, I don't know. I was 18 and I didn't know I was being signed up for it. They automatically put me into it.
Really?
Whatever.
Check
is it?
into that.
I'd check into it too.
Yeah.
Come on, John.
Get it used to the max.
It's actually
It's me. How about some of you others? Anybody else in a 401k or a 403b? No?
I used to work.
But I think I know what our benefits are. I think
What are they?
I think it's don't match. So 50 or 100% up to 6%.
Okay, that's very common. Very common. 50% up to 6 is very common match, or 50% up to 4, you know, right? And that's also very common. So There are either super 401k plans, IBM has one, where they will match like 100% up to 15% of what you put in. They want you to get wealthy, you know? And so that's,
But there is a cap for the year.
there's a dollar amount per
Unless you're
year.
a certain
Yeah,
age.
yeah. And it's about $17,500 unless you're older, then it goes up. So the defined contribution plan, though, remember this is like a big deal. They're not promising a benefit. They're promising you a contribution, right? That's all they're promising you. Like Teresa and John, they're throwing in, their employers are throwing in some money in addition to what they put in. But they're not promising any benefit. They're not promising a certain dollar amount benefit when they retire. Whatever's in the account when you go to retire is what your benefit's going to be. In other words, you want it to be as close to $1 million as you can get it, right? And you can get it there, okay? So the employer makes a contribution but doesn't guarantee a benefit amount. It's okay. The employee bears the investment risk with a defined contribution plan. The employee bears the risk. But what I'm saying to you is turn that to your advantage. Put in 10 to 15%. Oh no, put in at least 10%, but the max you could put in under the plan I was in most of my life was 15. I tried to get as close to that 15 as I could get because I wanted as much money in there as I could get. Now, I told you I was head human resources. So I had an employee, he was a mechanic. And he had put in the max all his life. He'd been a mechanic all his life. And he says to me, I'm going to retire, you know. He's very quiet. And I said, good. He goes, how much money do I actually have in there? I looked in there, he had like $930,000. I said, I don't believe it, you have $930,000. He goes, wow, that's pretty good, huh? Yeah, I think so. So I said, you want to marry somebody and be as miserable as the rest of us. But, you know, he was single, he had $930,000, and he was a happy man, okay? Contrasted with another mechanic, and a different mechanic, right? John Doe, this is a true story. And I could never talk John Doe into joining the 401k. Every year I would say, John, you really got to get in. You got to get in. I can't afford it. I have to take a pay cut to get in there. So he wouldn't get in. Well, you know, slipped my mind. John Doe retires. His wife called me up and said, John and I would like to come in and go over his retirement benefits, right? There was no retirement benefit. He never joined the plan. So I said to the CFO, oh, by the way, I said, George, if you're going to be around, I said, John Doe and his wife are coming in and talking about his retirement. I'd appreciate it if you were there. As a numbers guy. So he says, you know, Tom, for many years, John Doe never joined the 401k plan. Then it hit me. Oh my God, he never joined. So we're sitting there, and the two of them come in. We all sit down, the four of us are sitting there. And I'm thinking, how do I start this off? How about those Phillies, huh? So, you know, Mrs. Doe says, well, what does John get? Right? So I said, actually, Mrs. Doe, after we spoke, I checked the books, and John never joined the 401k plan. So Social Security is what he gets, right? We had his benefit figured out. So she says, what? Now, John's sitting next to her, and she says, what do you mean he never joined the plan? He told me he joined the plan. I said, oh boy, this is going to get better and better. So he goes, honey, I thought I did. I didn't actually join, right? So she picks up her pocketbook, she stands up, and she starts beating him over the head. I think really hit him, right? And she drew blood. The first shot broke his nose. And it was really gross. And I didn't know what to do. I was like this. You know? I didn't want to get in between them. I thought I'd tell you that. And George sat there like the CFO the whole time. And after a while, I said, okay, break it up. Break it up, folks. So after that, we let them go. And
She killed him shortly after.
yeah, I'm sure she divorced them shortly thereafter. But this became a problem in the United States. This did become a problem. You know, And now they've authorized automatic enrollment, right? You join a company, I bet this applies to almost all of you. Join a company, they're gonna sign you up, just like John. They're gonna sign you up for the 401k plan. You can opt out if you want. You can opt out, you can sign a form that says, I don't wanna be in there. But most people don't. Most people don't do that, okay? So with our 401k plan, usually you can put in, right? Usually the employee can put in up to 15 to 20%. I've seen both. I've seen plans where it was limited to 15, and I've seen plans where it was 20% of salary. Yep.
Why don't they let you put in whatever you want?
Because they don't want to get in, if you breach, you know, they have to do it by salary deduction. They're taking it out of your gross pay. If you breach, you can be subject to penalties if you go over the federal limit. The federal limit right now is around $17,500.
Because it's pre-tax dollars.
Yeah.
The government would tax you.
Oh, that's like the Roth IRAs have like 5,500.
Okay, so it comes in off the gross pay. No taxes are taken out. No taxes are taken out until you retire. So I'll tell you what, this is not a bad plan, okay? Because take a look, if you're making $40,000 a year, right? And you put in, well, let's say you put in 20%. 20% would be $8,000. And let's say your employer matches 2, right? So a total of $10,000 is going in there with no taxes taken out, right? $10,000 is going in there in 10 years. Just in simple arithmetic, you have $100,000. But with compound growth over the long run, over a 10-year period, it's going to be worth more than $100,000. It's probably going to be worth $130,000, $140,000, right? The market generally follows a ratchet up, generally, you know, it can be a little stomach churning sometimes, but generally it heads northeast. So it's a great way to turn this to your advantage, because if you're putting in there more money than what your employer was going to put in under a defined benefit plan, you can actually come out ahead with more money, just like my mechanic, right? $930,000. I had another lady who called me up one time, and she said, my brother, he was a mechanic for your company, he died. I know him, he was a very nice guy, and I had talked him into joining the 401k plan, right? So she said, none of my siblings want anything to do with it. He was kind of a ne'er-do-well. He drove a motorcycle, you know, that's what she kept telling me. Oh, he drove a motorcycle? Like, this was shocking. So I knew he drove a motorcycle, and it's actually how he met his demise. So she said, I'm stuck, you know, paying his debts and all this stuff. But what she didn't know was, and he wasn't in the plan that long. He had like $180,000 in the 401k plan, right? And her siblings told her, you can take whatever money he has. She got $180,000, right? So all of a sudden she went for, I'm stuck paying his debts too. Oh boy, I loved my brother, you know? And she got it, so that was that. But my point is that even if you drive a motorcycle, friends, you can save this money and come out in pretty good shape. If he had kept living, he would have probably ended up with a pretty good retirement.
Probably should have driven a car.
So, so the defined contribution plans, here we're mostly talking about the 401k plan. Okay? And the key is that the employer matches part of your contribution, part of what you save.